That was a lot. Stacey, you do this to me. You play something like that. That was a lot.
Sharon.
Hello.
Hello, Sharon.
Hi, Stacey.
I was,
Welcome.
you know what?
We can't even get it together. Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Exhale with Sharon and Stacey.
Welcome. Lover better not walk up in the house with no foolishness like that. What kind of cheater is he?
Well, you know what? We're gonna dive into it. And let me ask you, Stacey. Everybody, I'm gonna just want to let y'all know. Stacey said, "Hey, Sharon, let's do this show. Do cheaters get a bad name?" And Stacey, I want to ask you in front of our audience,
Okay.
what made you think about? How did you think about that? What made you think about us doing that show, this topic today?
Two things. It's the writer in me because I like to
Okay.
keep things real, and because I write around sin, love, lust, and temptation, right? And then I
Okay.
was talking to a woman one day, and she said to me, "I think cheaters get a bad name." Light bulb went off because I am one that speaks on both sides, not
Mm-hmm.
condoning cheating, but
Okay.
I think there's a difference. And then I find out, Sharon, of course, in that awesome book, you wanted to talk about it. So, you know what? I got excited thinking about the topic and just happy that you felt comfortable enough to discuss this with me.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic. Most definitely. I mean, I did write a whole book about it, and but my book was more leaning towards uh, the woman side of things and how she copes with cheating. But the cheater in my book is secondary, but it's a live secondary. Like the book's not about him, and I wrote to women, so it's a him, but we know women cheat too. It's not just men who cheat, women cheat too. So let's just get that part straight.
And
We're
I'm
just not
glad you said
talking
that.
about men, right?
I'm glad you said that because, we always hear about what the men are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think about growing up, I always heard the older women talk about how the men cheated, right?
Right.
So I started running across bold older women that said, no, I didn't stay in the house.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know what I mean? I said, like to other people, to males, I'm not one of those women back in the day that's going to sit in the house, take care of the children, and cook your meals while you run the street. I was wrong, Sharon. Women back in the day were not sitting in the house.
They gave the illusion that they were sitting in the house, right? That's what we
That's,
thought.
that's
But
the illusion.
it probably was a whole lot more prevalent than what we will ever know back then. We always thought about grandpa as the one who was cheating, or daddy as the one who was cheating. But there probably were just as many women creeping, as men back then. We just were more discreet with the way
Right.
it was done.
And I've got to, Sharon, I want to say this because I want you to remember that I asked you this question, and maybe if we both forget, someone that's watching will remind us. Sharon,
Hmm.
I think this thing with relationships and cheating is going to go more than one show because I've heard from two men in the last month, married, wives cheated, thought children were theirs. One was the guy's brother, and another man, more than one child during his marriage, and neither was his.
Wow.
We can talk about that
Ooh.
in another show.
Okay, that's a lot. That's
Who
a
was
lot.
cheating? The women.
Women were. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, so um so the question is, do cheaters get a bad name? Um let's talk about the difference. In my book, I got a chapter on the difference between a cheater and a man who has cheated. But we can put woman in there too. There's a difference between the cheater and the man or woman who has cheated.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
let me break it down to you. Okay. The all of us, let me just say this, and I probably get some backlash from this because there are probably some people going to say, not me, but all of us, I believe, are susceptible to cheating. Monogamy is a choice, and there are some who choose not to exercise that temptation, who not to give in to that temptation, and that there are some who choose to give in to the temptation. But we all are susceptible to being tempted. Therefore, we're susceptible to cheating. But the person, I'm not going to say person, the person who has cheated is very different from the person who is a cheater. Okay. So the cheater, I'm going to start with the cheater. The cheater cheats by default. The cheater has cheated on everybody that they have ever been with, has never been faithful to one person. The
Okay.
cheater will justify their cheating. It's not against their value system to cheat. They will justify their cheating. They will tell you what you haven't done, what you should be doing, what you could have done to keep them from cheating. If their needs aren't met, they will cheat. If they don't like the way you look anymore, they will cheat. If they don't like the way what you said, how you treat them, they will cheat. Cheaters will look for the opportunity to cheat. It's in their DNA. They, as a sport, they will cheat. They don't have a lot of remorse about the cheating because they can justify it by what you did or what you didn't do. There's not a high level of remorse. And if you're going to go to them talking about working through it and making changes, they may modify some behaviors, which makes you think that they've stopped cheating. But in essence, they are just getting better at the game. The cheating will continue. Now, can a cheater stop cheating? Some do stop cheating eventually, but it has absolutely nothing to do with you and how you feel. It would be them just getting tired of the running, but that's your cheater.
That's
Okay.
the cheater, the runner.
That's the cheater.
Okay.
The person who has cheated is different. The person who has cheated is a person who it's not in their value system to cheat. They never set out to do it. It was not a conscious choice to cheat. But circumstances and situations put them in a vulnerable place, and they didn't realize their willpower was not stronger than the temptation, and they gave in to the temptation.
Now, someone's going to say, Sharon, you've just made an excuse.
No, because this person will be remorseful. This person has a conscience about what they did, and they will never cheat again. And they want to know why they did it. They will take the time to look inside of themselves to say, how did I get caught doing that? What made me vulnerable to and susceptible to cheating? That is not what I want to do. They will feel so bad about what they did. And their apology to you is going to be the change behavior, and they will do whatever is in their power to never put themselves in a position to do that again. Very different from the cheater. Very different. Now go ahead. What were you going to say about that?
No, I'm just like, you know, some people will say that you're making excuses, but I agree with everything you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've known people and I've had a friend who, after years and years, never said anything bad about her husband,
Uh-huh.
who found out her husband cheated.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he came back and the way he apologized and what he was trying to do. And, I remember saying to her, if he hasn't done it before, work this out, see what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to explain to her, I'm not saying that what he did was not wrong, but like you said, there is such a thing as cheating and feeling remorseful. And I think
Yes. Yes.
temptation is a terrible thing to the flesh.
Oh, yes.
Temptation will break a strong man or woman down.
Yes. Yes, it will. Uh-huh. And we're human. And we are human. And I like that you said some people will say you're making an excuse for them because, of course, Stacey, when they come to us and they say everything that I just said, what we gonna say to them? You making excuses. You trying to
Right.
make excuses for your behavior. You should have never done it. And da, 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 that's what we're gonna say. And I get it. But at the end of the day, if this is the some people can forgive it and some people can't. Let's just say that. And I'm not saying either way is wrong or right, but some people can forgive it and they can work towards building a stronger relationship and a stronger foundation for a relationship. And some people can't. Some people can't get over it. Some people will never be able to look past the fact that you did that. And those are the ones who should leave the relationship, because if you can't get over it, that means that is a debt that that person is never going to be able to pay, and you will never bring all of your heart back into that relationship. So know who you are, be true to who you are. If you can stay and you can work through it, and that person is a person who has cheated and not a cheater, and you all come out stronger on the other side, was it I'm not going to say worth it, but do you feel that you made the best decision because you got a stronger foundation and a stronger commitment from your partner as a result of this crisis that came into the relationship?
And sometimes, like we said last week when you answered my question, can being betrayed be a blessing in disguise?
Mm-hmm.
Now, listening to you, it seems like, and I'm not telling anybody to go out and do this,
Right.
but it seems like for some relationships, maybe someone stepping out, it was a blessing to the relationship, because sometimes there's two people, of course, in a relationship, and you always got
Mhm.
that one that gets complacent and forgets what you were doing in the first place
Right.
that made this person happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a reminder, it's a wake up call for
Mm-hmm.
those that can forgive. Or if you can't forgive in your next relationship, it it will let you know, hey, I got too complacent, or I put
Right.
myself first all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when you think about the cheating and what goes into it, and you look at the personality and some of the character traits that may go into the cheating, what do you think about?
The characteristics you mean describe the cheater?
Yeah, like some people may say, narcissists cheat, or people with low self-esteem cheat, or immature people cheat, or what do you think goes into it?
I think a number of things could go into it. I think someone's upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
their role model,
Uh-huh.
plays a part in how a man treats his when a young man grows up and how he'll treat his wife. I
Right.
think we need to remember that words are not enough. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
not letting someone know that they're special by your actions, they'll seek it somewhere else. And I think something, and this might be going a little further, ask your partner if there's something that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something I'm not doing? Because it could be so small as conversation.
Oh, yes. Communication is key. Yeah. But
People get
sometimes,
lonely.
yeah. And I hear that a lot, that a partner will try to communicate with their partner and they say, well, is anything wrong? Am I doing anything wrong? Am I missing anything? Are you missing anything? Or is there something that you need that I'm not giving you? And sometimes that partner won't be honest and they won't tell their partner the truth.
Communication.
you know Sometimes they won't, and then when the cheating occurs, that's a dagger, because I came to you and I asked you if you needed something, if there was something wrong, and you didn't
Right.
tell me.
Right.
So sometimes they conceal it, and that causes a huge rift, because had they spoken about what it is they need, maybe there could have been some repair other than getting into a crisis situation with the cheating. And, maybe she or he could have attended to those unmet needs that led you out to cheat with someone else to get those needs met outside of the relationship.
Right. I remember the very first show I had for my time. I did a live show in Richmond. My
Mm-hmm.
first guests were two prostitutes who ran prostitution out of one of the projects in Richmond.
Uh-huh.
And when I asked about it, one said, "You'd be surprised. There are men that come and pay us not for sex, but for conversation."
Ah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, "Are
yeah.
you serious?"
Mm-hmm.
They said, she said, one of them said she's had customers. It wasn't about sex.
Yeah.
They wanted someone to talk
Someone
to.
to talk to. You remember? I can't remember exactly who it was, but there was this prostitution ring that was in the news one time with politicians, like these high level call
Uh
girls,
huh. Uh huh.
and they got busted. And I don't know if you can remember, but so many of them said he just wanted somebody to talk to. And he thought that she was his friend. He thought that
Yes.
she was his friend, because he could go and he could be vulnerable with her and he could, tell her all of his deep-seated secrets. So sometimes, let's talk about the types of cheaters because there's just not one. We can't lump them all into one box. Let's talk about the type of cheaters. Okay, so I found this on the internet, but there's a lot of studies around it as well. And the one we're talking about now, the one who wants the conversation, that's the emotional cheater.
Okay.
Okay, now the emotional cheater is looking for someone to listen. They're looking for someone that they can connect with, someone who understands them, someone who validates them, someone who hears them, someone who holds them in high esteem, someone who makes them feel important. That's who the emotional cheater is looking
Right.
for.
Right.
Someone that they feel like they have some type of real connection with. And someone would say, that's my soulmate. That person, we are intellectually, we're on the same level.
Right.
Emotionally, we are on the same level. So that's your emotional cheater. And most people say that women are typically emotional cheaters because
Hmm.
looking for that connection and that bond, but men do too.
Yeah.
you
And
know
it, it's kind of sad
Mhm.
that people don't think that there's a difference in the type of cheater.
Uh-huh.
It's sad that I'm going to say women, we don't give our men a chance to be emotional or any sign of him wanting to talk.
Uh-huh.
Some women looks at the men as weak.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you don't allow that man to open up.
Mhm.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's something they. I hope someone sees this show and sees that. What if he's just in? What if he did it just because of his emotions? And
Yeah.
you could have changed it just by sitting there listening to him.
Mhm. And those are some of the lessons that can come out of the act, the stepping out. Those are some of the lessons that can come from it because yeah, okay, that's what he needed. But that reminds me of a lot of posts that I've been seeing lately with men saying that women don't want them to be vulnerable and that women have become masculine and that when they're vulnerable, we call them weak, we call them uh, names, when they show up as vulnerable. And, they're challenging women on our masculinity. And then the women come back and say, well, we have to be masculine because, we got to take care of ourselves and we can't trust you all. And, a plethora of reasons why
Of reasons, yeah,
masculine. But that's an ongoing battle now that I hear on social media a lot. Have you heard that? Have you seen that
yeah.
battle?
I've seen it. It's just something how times have changed.
Yes,
It's
yes.
something there are some women don't want that won't allow men to be men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll run them away too.
Yeah.
Um it could get so deep on that, you know. It's
Let's talk about the wounded cheater. The wounded cheater has childhood wounds and attachment issues. He may have been neglected as a child. He may have been abused as a child. He may have um, unfavorable traumas and unfavorable situations and traumas in his life that have left him very uh, wounded and broken, and his self-esteem is not very high. Although some people can mask and make it look like they have a high level of self-esteem, sometimes their level of confidence is very low. And those wounds that they endured from their childhood, they bring into their adulthood, and they're looking for someone to heal those wounds for them. They haven't done their work. So the wounded cheater is the one who's out there looking for that one to feel that role that the mother or the father didn't feel.
and see that to me, see it well, it started in the home.
Started in the home. Yeah.
It started in the home. Parents don't realize um how what they say and what they do around children or do to children, how it can affect their life.
Yes.
And I think when you said what you said, he's wounded, right? Needs someone to talk to. My first thought is, I think by the time someone goes through school, they watch things on TV, they
Mm-hmm.
mature, they should know by the time they're in their 20s or 30s, there's such a thing as a therapist. But then I have to stop myself and remind myself that some men, based on the way they grew up in their house, they think it's a bad thing to go get help.
Yeah. Yeah. Therapy is a tough sell. It's the stigma is leaving now, but therapy for years has been a tough sell. And I will say for our race,
Our people, right?
yeah, it's been a tough sell, and African American men, but the movement, there are a lot of movements out there now where um, men are the stigma is being removed, and I don't have a whole lot of male clients, but males are now entering therapy at a higher percentage than ever before. So a lot of times when a male comes into therapy, it's with a woman because of relationship issues and primarily infidelity. That's the way they come in often. And then once they get in and they've come with her, then they may get to a place where they feel comfortable with the process and then do some individual work. Because I always say if there's cheating going on, some individual work needs to be done too.
So are you saying more men are open to when you bring this to their attention? We have more men that are they're willing to accept what their role plays in it, like that it's them and not the woman. That I guess if a man really loves a woman or a woman really loves a man and you go to a therapist, you better do the work you can if you want to keep that person, right?
Right. You should. You should do the work if you want to keep that person. Um, Let me say this. Well, a lot of people don't realize they're wounded. They don't realize why they're acting the way that they're acting. Those wounds um, can be masqueraded as something else, but coming to therapy, we can look deeper and we can get to the place where they understand this behavior comes from this wound, or your motivation is coming from this wound, this attachment wound, this neglect that you experience, this abuse that you experience, this uh bullying or whatever. They can make the connections then, but a lot of people don't really realize that they're wounded.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
self-awareness definitely is a key key factor to coming to therapy because it can heighten the level of self-awareness. Yeah.
Have you ever, Sharon, have you ever ran across a couple? Have you ever ran across a couple that you realize the man just he loves this woman,
Hmm.
but he's just not going to be able to stop with other women, right?
Hmm.
Have you ever ran across a couple like that and tried to help them? Like, how does a woman, like what the video we just showed, or we just
Yeah.
showed earlier?
Yeah.
How what do you tell a woman about the man she loves that
Hmm.
says he needs to see other women too?
So okay, so that we're gonna peel that onion layer back in two ways. You got your serial cheater. That's another type of cheater. There's a serial cheater who is not going to stop cheating. And then you have this new um this new term they use in ethical non-monogamy, where he's coming in the gate telling you that he is not a commitment type. He doesn't want one woman. He is
Greedy.
commit to one woman. He's coming in the gate. Now let's talk about him, the ethical non-monogamy, because he's coming in. He's being honest with you, and he's telling you that he is not going to be with one woman. That's not him. Monogamy is not his thing. He will treat you well, just like the video. He will treat you
Take
well.
care home.
He will take care home, but he does not think that one woman and one man is the way that it's supposed to be. He feels that he likes variety, and he's
You,
telling you he likes variety.
you know, Sharon, I don't agree with this. But someone said to me one time, how can a how can a man not cheat when there's so many more women on this earth than men?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that, we
You,
outnumber them in
yes,
colleges and church and workplace. Well,
and
no, they
that's hard for them,
yeah. And yeah, I've heard that.
I think that term you just ethical, non-monogamous.
Non-monogamy. Uh-huh.
I think that term, along with some others that I won't say, um, stop,
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
stop it. Stop
Right,
taking
right.
things that you know are
Mhm.
not right
Mhm.
and changing it to justify what
Your
you're doing.
behavior. Right. Now, the thing I will say, you know, the serial cheater back in the day, Stacey, we used to call him a player. You remember you call him a
Player,
player? Yeah,
yeah,
he just
yeah.
girl, he just a player, and everybody know the player. He is not gonna settle down. He fun, he charismatic, he dressed nice. You gonna have a good time with him, but he is not going to commit to you.
But you know what? When women, we were told that, we heard that.
Uh-huh.
For some reason, women are attracted to bad boys.
Attracted to the player. Exactly. How does he become a player? If we ain't attracted to him, that's how he got a number of women because we attracted to him, right? So my thing is the player ain't really, he got a whole lot of lies and a whole lot of game with his thing. But the ethical non-monogamous man is being upfront with you. He's giving you a choice. I would have to respect that. You're giving me a choice.
Yeah, yeah, because he's not doing it behind your back.
Exactly.
He's telling you what he needs.
Or
So
she.
or what he or she needs. Yeah,
Right.
because women are doing it. I've seen some
Yeah,
reality shows like
exactly.
that. But
Uh-huh.
so at the end of the day, it's up to the other person to make that decision.
Right.
And
Right.
once somebody's told you, so Sharon,
Mm-hmm.
if he tells you he's ethical, non-monogamous,
Uh-huh.
and you choose to stay with him,
Right.
and you find out, in case for some reason you thought he was joking, that
Mm-hmm.
he has another friend, is he called a cheater?
I'm saying no because he told you, because okay, if we look at the word cheating, what the word cheating means, not playing by the rules,
Right,
breaking the rules, deceiving, deceptive, all
right.
of those synonyms, and definitions can go with cheating. If he told you up front that he is not ready to settle down, or he's going to see other people, and you want to hear that, you want to hear him say, I am still seeing other people, I'm seeing other people. He's being honest with you. You have a choice. So I don't think you can call that cheating, because he's letting you know up front, he's setting it out there. Now I think sometimes, or she, I think sometimes people hear that and they think, because we're doing all these things that feel like a relationship and we're spending all
It's
this
going to
time
change.
together,
Uh-huh.
they're going to change the person.
Pa-
Yeah.
Pamela says, true, a lot of women like to be with a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Pam. I always say, to keep it real, Pam. I said, you like a man with a little thug in him, but you want him to know how to act when you take him home.
A little game, and you keep it spicy, the
Play
relationship
game with
not
it.
boring.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and people are so quick to say this, and I write about this. So
Mhm.
people, the first time somebody cheats, see, they get angry. They
Yeah.
don't want to know why the person cheated. And
Right.
the first thing they say is, well, the grass ain't greener on the other side. Well,
Mhm.
let me say this to you. You need to pay attention to your mate, because it might not be greener, but it damn sure can be good to play in sometime. And he or she may go play in it.
Amen. Yeah.
It's,
Uh,
listen, you know
well,
what?
listen, let's talk about the revenge cheater. How about the revenge cheater?
is,
Yeah, because you did it
is
to
that
me.
okay? Is Sharon, how do you handle people like, is it okay for him or her to get revenge? Does two rights make a wrong?
Two
Two
rights,
wrongs make a right?
two wrongs don't make a right, but the revenge cheater feels justified, right? They want that person to hurt just as much as they hurt when they found out about the cheating.
How can
And sometimes people have come to me and they have said, after I cheated on him or her, because that person cheated on me, I could get back in the relationship. I could stay in the relationship. There ain't no
really?
healing. There's been no healing in that, in that scenario right there, but it allowed them to stay in the relationship and they didn't want to leave. So they did the revenge thing so that I got my lick back. I'm good now.
Yeah, I think everybody gonna be mad in the house. Every time something come up, somebody gonna get mad. But
Uh-huh.
this is what I forgot to ask you about. Which one of these people that you've described, these cheaters,
Hmm.
is this person? The person that's cheating tells the mistress or the mister on the side,
Hmm.
it's okay that I'm doing this because you actually make my home happier.
I've heard people say that.
He or she believes that because they chose to take someone on the side, this is why you still have me as your wife or your husband.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I've heard people say that too. And
What kind of cheater is that, Sharon? A ethical non-monogamous,
that's not, because the wife or the husband don't know that
right?
what's going on, so it's not ethical. Ain't nothing ethical in it. But a lot of people say that they will find somebody on the outside, and that person gives them what's missing in the relationship with their partner, and it keeps them with the partner. um, I say work through what the blocks are with your partner and be real with yourself to see if your partner can bring, that level of whatever that need is into the relationship. And if they can't, then maybe that's not the person for you. If you have to continuously cheat, then maybe
Right,
that's not the person for you, if,
right.
if there's something missing to that extent.
And I think it's selfish.
But
If
it's
you know,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
Go ahead.
But because if you know one person can't satisfy you, or you're not getting one person can't satisfy you, yet you're still trying to hold on to this other person, I think that's very selfish.
Yeah. Hmm.
I
It's
think that's very selfish. And
there's a level of entitlement there. There's a level of selfishness
when you
there.
said being narcissistic.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mhm.
That will breed a cheater. Definitely will breed a cheater. Um, you have one that's called the self-destructive cheater. And the way they describe the self-destructive cheater is really interesting. The self-destructive cheater is the person that gets really, gets in a relationship and starts really catching feelings with you, but this person has attachment issues too.
Mhm.
And then they get afraid that you're going to reject them or abandon them in some kind of way, and they start sabotaging the relationship. Yeah, they start sabotaging because they're afraid of the level of commitment that they're feeling, and they're afraid that they're going to get played or, abandoned or rejected or whatever. So they cheat.
And you know what else? Karma.
Mm,
Some
uh-huh,
some people think because they cheated, they get in another relationship, they can't enjoy the relationship because
right.
they thinking karma gonna get them.
Exactly. That's
Can't
right.
get they can't forgive themselves for what they did. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
Whew.
And then you got the sex addict.
Sharon, you're the therapist. Sharon,
What do you
is
think
it
about that? What do you think about that, Stacey? The sex addict.
see, here's the thing, another term to justify why somebody's doing something.
Do you feel like it's a justification?
See, I'm very careful because I don't know how your hormones are.
Right.
But and see, that's the problem. The minute they say they're a sex addict or whatever, we say, oh, they can't help it, right?
Hmm.
But I think we go back to once again, if you can't help it, you shouldn't be married.
Exactly. Right. Gets yeah.
You are addicted to sex. You can't be faithful
Uh-huh.
to one person.
Hmm.
Being selfish, you shouldn't be married.
Right. And I think the misconception that people have is, with the sex addict, they feel like, well, you got a woman. Why couldn't you just get it from, your woman?
Right.
It's like any other addiction. It's like they crave sex. They want the thrill of the sex. They want variety. They want they put themselves in these situations that could be really risky to get sex. They do pornography. They do a lot of masturbating.
I
It's
wanted
just a strong urge for the sex, for the
I
act of
wanted
sex.
I wanted to ask you that. I
Hmm.
wanted to ask you, since we're talking about cheaters,
Uh-huh.
if he or she is into porn,
Hmm.
they never leave the house, but
Hmm.
they look at a lot of porn,
Right.
right?
Right.
Is he or she a cheater?
Some, well, it depends on the rules of your relationship. Some women do. I've had women to be really offended and feel like he's cheating because he's masturbating and he's looking at porn all the time. And then when he gets in the bed with her, he can't perform because he's
Yeah.
done what he's done all day long. So she feels like he's cheating on her because it's robbing them of a full sexual experience in their relationship. So yeah, a lot of women feel like it's a type of cheating. Yeah.
Right. So should he? So if women feel like that, should the man feel like she's cheating if she uses a toy or she's watching porn?
It could be the same way. Men probably, I've heard women say that their men have thrown away their toys,
Yeah.
found them and threw them away because they feel like it's robbing them of the, fullness of the relationship. Yeah. So some partners do feel like that is a form of cheating. What do you think?
Do I think watching porn? See, I've never had nobody addicted to porn.
Uh
I
huh.
think it won't bother me if lover wants to look at porn.
Hmm.
But if it became a habit, like I worked with a lady that said, every Sunday, this is crazy. After church,
Uh huh.
he'd go into his room and he'd masturbate off porn. that to me,
Uh-huh.
regardless of what day of the week it is, I would have a problem with that. Because
Yeah.
now I'm thinking you'd rather see what's on that show than me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Every
Right.
now and then, or if it's something we're watching together,
Right.
but
Right.
why
Right.
is your mind totally on that?
And you see the compulsive nature of that. You see the craving, the addictive
Right,
aspect of that.
right,
Yeah,
right,
because that's sex addiction, and really, I think the term is misused because statistically they say it's only 3 to 10% of the people who are labeled as sex addicts. Only 3 to 10% are really sex
a
addicts.
really sex addict.
Uh-huh.
So they're taking a term and they're trying to justify.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah, so do cheaters get a bad name?
I think some do. I
Some
think
do.
some do.
Some
Um,
do. And none
because
of this is a justification. It's just an eye opener to look at,
right,
um the types and the thought processes and the mentality that goes into it and
right,
some of the real issues that are active that lead
right,
to that act. Yeah.
right. So I think yeah, I think some people, based on some of the characters that you describe, some people, yeah, they should have a bad name, especially if they're being selfish. But
Yeah.
then others, you do it one time. I'm not saying you can go out and do it one time, but I mean, I truly believe that the spirit can be strong,
Mhm.
but the flesh can be weak.
Exactly. Yeah.
I truly believe that. And
Yeah.
when backed in a corner,
Yeah. And I would say cheaters may get a bad name because they are using sex as a utility to get what they need.
right, right,
And a lot of times it's not even the sex that they want, but sex is a vehicle to get the need met. The
right,
attention, the boost in the confidence, the strokes, the feeling of importance, the level of acceptance, all of that,
right.
trying to get a need met in that way is wrong because you got to get to whatever the core
The
issue
core
is.
of the problem is.
Got to get to the core. Yeah.
Wow. So, is this a good time to describe your books, what you write about?
So my book is The Truth About the Lies, What Women Tell Themselves that keep them stuck with cheating men. And my book is looking at the narratives that the women create when they're with a cheating man because they aren't ready to leave him. So the narratives that she creates when she's trying to cope with his cheating, how when you're with him and you're trying to stay in the relationship, then yeah, that's my books. Definitely. You're trying to stay in that relationship with him. You're abandoning your values, your needs, your wants. You're going to become a character image of yourself. And so my book breaks it down, some of those characters that you become in the process of trying to cope with his cheating. So the truth about the lies what women tell themselves that keep them stuck with cheating men is the name of my book. And I have a workbook and journal that goes with it. Yeah. Now what
Okay.
about you, Stacey? I know you have some books.
This is what I love about being you. Leave it to Sharon. Sharon's gonna help us.
Mm-hmm.
Stacey's trying to help you. My books are basically like I'm keeping it real with you. I'm talking about things that you want to talk about with your girlfriends, but you don't know if you should talk about with your girlfriends.
Okay.
I'm reminding you that the spirit may be strong,
Mm-hmm.
but the flesh may be weak.
Okay.
People say the stories are entertaining, Sharon. I'll give you an example. We're talking about cheaters.
Okay.
So in my book, one of my books, we talk about, I guess, the man that shouldn't get a bad name, perhaps,
Okay. Okay.
um, because he's a praying man.
Mm.
He tries to talk to his wife. And you know that old saying, don't have a bunch of women coming up in your house?
Oh, yes.
It's real.
Uh-huh.
So I guess my stories they're entertaining, Sharon.
But they're
Um,
real. But they're
They're
real.
real.
Uh-huh.
Someone cheats, I'm going to tell you why they cheat. And I honestly believe this: he or she may not want to go back a second time,
Mm-hmm.
but it was good, whether they like the fact that it was good or not. And someone at home still ain't paying attention.
What's the name of that book?
Here we go.
All right.
Sins of the flesh.
Okay.
Um, one sins of flesh, one sins of flesh two, and then a secrets of a suburban chick, all on Amazon.
Okay. Okay.
So, so you read my book, and then you go get Sharon book, so you do the right thing.
Got you coming and going, right?
It's been great, Sharon.
It's another great show, Stacy. Well, we hope you enjoyed tonight, and we hope that some of this topic that we talked about, some of this information helped you to exhale.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And we'll be back next week. Same day, same time.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, look at the bottom. You can follow Sharon and you can follow me. You can contact both of us. And until next time, have a great night.
Good night. Good night, Stacy.
Good night.